What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of JD Talks NASCAR. On this episode, I'm recapping Talladega and what was a pretty bland Talladega race, to be honest with you. Then we look forward to Dover, one of my favorite tracks in on the circuit. Not necessarily the best racing there, but just super high speeds and chaos sometimes ensues at the Monster Mile. So, sorry for the delay. I've had a lot going on this week. So we are here on, I think today's Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. And, I'm going to try to get back to, as I can, doing on post race. Those seem to get the most listens. And you all are ready to digest the content as soon as the race is over. So I will do a better job of that. But I kind of want at the same time I kind of wanted to save the post race for big races that are really great, do really great things. I could see Kansas in a couple weeks potentially being that, but the last couple have been, dare I say, disappointing. Um, I hate to say it like that, but I think it's honestly the truth. Um, I really do hate it because NASCAR this year got off to such a hot start, but these last two or three races, man, I really haven't enjoyed full on watching it as a fan. Texas was Texas was the one bright spot in the last like month. I thought Texas was put on a better race than it usually does. I said that last week, but other than that, it was kind of And I hate to get on here and be a Debbie Downer. That's not me. I'm always looking for the positive in NASCAR. But at the same time, you've got to be honest. And I was very underwhelmed with this race at Talladega this week, because not a lot happened. You didn't have the big one until the last 500 feet of the last 50 feet of the start finish line. I mean, it was just the very last lap, the last corner was when the big one happened. And I don't think that, there was that one other wreck with the Toyotas, and we'll talk about that, the misfortune there. But that was really the only other wreck. The field paced along. I mean, they were basically running pace laps 3 wide to save fuel. We've seen that a lot at these super speedways lately, trying to get to the end of the stages or a certain number before they pit, and it ends up in just not racing. To be honest with you, it ends up with them going 150 miles an hour at a super speedway at 3 wide, and you're like, what? What is this? This is not super speedway racing. This is not what I'm accustomed to as a NASCAR fan, and they've got to do something about that. But I'm not sure what the answer is. Um, this car. I mean, I feel like it could be fun on super speedways, but things would have to change. The big old spoiler they put on these things at super speedways is pretty wild. I think that obviously contributes to the problem. So we'll just see. I would be shocked if they don't change anything, at least by next year, to this super speedway package, because it's. I mean, I don't. Once again, I don't want to sound like a hater, but when I think of Talladega and Daytona, I don't think of what I've seen this year. To be honest with you, the Daytona 500 was underwhelming, and I've said that from the start. But this Talladega race, you look for more. And I'm not saying you have to have 25 cautions for it to be a good race. That's not the opinion that I'm at. I'm just I want to see guys be able to make moves. You know, Denny was always really good in the Gen 6 car at going from the back to the front with ease because he knew when to make runs. Brad Keselowski was really good at this too in the Gen 6 car. They would win at super speedways because they knew where to put their car at the right time. And that's just not, I don't think that's possible anymore. Kyle Busch tweeted after, you either ride around and settle for a finish where you are, or you get out of line and you get wrecked at the last lap. I mean, and that's true. So that's definitely got to be fixed. It's just discouraging because I really did. I always have enjoyed super speedway racing. But there comes a time where once you see stuff like you saw Sunday, there's got to be changes made. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm going to get on into the race recap. That's enough for a 5 minute rant to open this up. But let me know what you all think. Do you all agree with what I'm saying? Do you think I'm off base? And I'll take criticism. I take criticism on a daily, everything I do. So I'm not scared of a little criticism if you disagree. Just let me know. I love talking about things like this too because I value everyone's opinion, no matter who you are, where you're from. I value your opinion. So just let me know what you thought about the racing this weekend. To start, I want to shout out BJ McLeod, who was running this race unsponsored. He sold his charter at the end of last year, which means he doesn't get to be in every single race. And it seems like that team, Live Fast Motorsports, has opted to run the 78 car at super speedways this year. And he got up there and led some laps at the beginning. Started in the very back, worked his way up, and it was cool to see him, an unsponsored car, lead some laps at Talladega. It's good for him. And people need to realize BJ McLeod is a guy that has won many, many races, not in the NASCAR sanctioned series, but in smaller series. And he's a guy that can definitely race with the best of them. So um, good to see that for him. He ended up running out of gas while leading and did a good job of um, not collecting people in wreck. But he ran out of gas, and that was another like fuel save. That's kind of when the fuel saving mode turned on in the field. Like, hey, this guy just ran out of gas. We've got to start saving here, and that's kind of when that happened. But thought it was a good job by everybody in the field, especially BJ McLeod, of getting out of the way when he ran out. When you run out of gas from the lead super speedway, that's recipe for disaster. But luckily, nobody was collected there. Um, the first eventful thing that happened was Denny Hamlin gets in a little bit of water coming to pit road, spins out, coming in for his green flag pit stop. Of course, this was discouraging as a Denny Hamlin fan to see, but at the same time, super speedway, I knew who'd get back in it. Austin Cindric won the first stage by about a millimeter. Um, he did a good job planning his run there in the tri-oval, and I think he beat Chase Elliott, who finished second there in that stage by like an inch. So good job by Cindric. Ford's we talked about it last week, and then once again, Ford's didn't win this week, but I Fords on super speedways really qualify well. They run well in the race for the most part too, but unless it's been Blaney or Chris Buescher won last year at Daytona. Other than that, I can't think of anybody in particular that's won a super speedway race in a Ford. I mean, Blaney dominates a lot of them, but I thought the emphasis on Ford needing to win this week was very credible because you look at the schedule and I mean, you got a mile and a half or a mile at Dover, mile and a half at Kansas. Darlington, Logano won there a couple years ago, but it took a bump and run. If I don't even know if you'd call it that, but Ford's just not having the speed that I thought they would at the beginning of the year. I thought they would be better than last year. That just has not happened. But it goes back to Cindric winning the first stage. That was good for them. And then Corey LaJoy spins exiting the pits on the green flag stops after the end of the first stage. The weepers in the track under the track, like exiting and entering pit road, were very. You could definitely tell that they played a factor in the race with Denny spinning and Corey. Corey exiting, Denny entering. It was just bad circumstances for both those guys. Then we had Christopher Bell getting a too fast entering penalty and Ryan Blaney too fast entering penalty. Both of those set them back. And then the move of the race that I thought that actually got me like up out of my chair, like holy crap, what a move! Chris Buescher on Joey Logano. Logano and Cindric, I don't remember what happened if they I think they just had really good pit stops because they were out in front of the field. I think they had really good green flag pit stops. But then the 17 caught them along with the pack, and Cindric stayed down on the low line, but Logano's going to do Logano things. and he came up to try to block the absolute huge run that the pack had on him. Ended up working out for him, but a ballsy move that, like I said, ends up working out. But Chris Buescher threaded the needle in between the 2 and the 22 and passed Logano on the inside. It was an awesome move if you saw it live. I'm sure you're like, holy crap, how did he get that? I mean, he even made a little bit of contact with the 2 of Austin Cindric, but got the pass completed. And Logano, I mean, you can say he does Logano things, which that was. That was a boneheaded move, but it resulted in him winning the second stage. So it was obviously a good move. He gets the playoff point, and the Ford swept the 2 stages. And at that point, I was like, man, this is Ford's race to lose. This is exactly what they need. And then they found a way to lose it. So Seabell and Justin Haley spinning in Seabell's day once again. My lord, Christopher Bell he's either winning races or in the very back this year. It seems like, or at least with damage. And he got into it with Justin Haley there. I think Haley was able to continue, but Seabell, his day was done for his hard hit to the wall. And speaking of hard hits, I've got titled here Toyota Chaos. The Toyotas were on a differing strategy than everybody else, and it was a strategy that was going to work, and actually still ended up working for your race winner. So I went back to talking about everyone in the pack saving fuel. Well, the Toyotas decided to pit together and decided to just go ahead and get gas and run at full throttle. And it was a plan that was well drawn out and that was absolutely going to work until we have the incident that resulted in terrible hits for the 23 and the 43, mainly the 43. But so I couldn't really tell. I went back and watched it. I don't know. I think Jones got loose. Um, I think that's what happened. Uh, and then Bubba didn't have time to check up, kind of spun him towards the wall, and just a terrible head-on impact for Eric Jones. I saw John Hunter getting some blame online. I didn't. I mean, I think it was just unfortunate set of circumstances. John Hunter came down and hit Denny, but I don't think there was. I don't think there was anywhere he could go at the point. Um, they were just all pushing really, really hard, trying to get back and do or get to the lead. And I think broadcast was saying they thought it was really going to work. I thought it was going to work. It was a great plan, but just ends with a terrible impact for the 43 of Eric Jones, and he ends up, he gets checked at the infield care center, but then it's reported that he had to go back, and then they end up sending him to a local medical facility to get more tests done. Comes out yesterday that he will miss this week's race due to a compression fracture in his lower vertebrae. Terrible news for Eric Jones. He's put together a solid year. He was my sleeper pick to make the playoffs. I'm not sure how long he will be out, but Corey Heim will drive the 43 in his place. I am excited to see what Corey can do. He's been super good in the Truck Series, and in his Xfinity Series starts, he's done good things. Hated that for Eric Jones. Want to take a minute to shout out to him. Hope he gets back quick. You never want to see anybody at all get injured, and definitely not a guy as nice as Eric Jones is. So hate to see that for him. Hopefully, I'm not going to say it's a 1 week injury. I honestly expect it to be a little bit more than that, but I hope it is just the 1 week because you hate to see guys miss time. This is their life. This is their job. Their sponsors that they have to, that they run for. So I hate to see anybody get injured. Like I'll go back to after the 23 and 43 hit, it kind of had the chain reaction there, and John Hunter gets up into Bubba and then comes down the track, wipes Denny out. I don't know if John Hunter's steering was broke or if he was loose. Kind of looked like he was loose. And Denny took a hard hit as well. He was all right. It was good to see him be all right, but his day was done after that. He got clipped in the right rear and spun into the fence. So, a bad day for the Toyotas. up until it wasn't. At least those Toyotas, it was a bad day for. But Michael McDowell. It looked like Michael McDowell was going to win this race. He got the pole, which would be huge for Ford if he could have got the win. But he led like the last 20 or so laps until the final one. Coming through the tri-oval, he blocked high. Brad Keselowski had a big run. He blocked it, blocked low, and just was barely not clear off of Brad Keselowski's nose. And ends up spinning out and collecting a lot of the field. Tyler Reddick gets through and wins the race for 23-11. I love it, of course. That's Denny's car. Denny car owner. Anybody that drives for him, I'm all in on winning. It's cool to see Reddick get a win at a super speedway. He's not really a typical super speedway racer. And that goes back to, I've heard some of you all say that you love when I talk about my fantasy league. It's kind of a ongoing joke that I'm so terrible at it. And it was once again this week. But nobody. There's 20 people that pick a driver in that league. Nobody had Reddick this week, because you just don't. And I can't blame anybody because Reddick wasn't even a guy in my mind. I mean, I picked Bubba, so I mean, I should have just realized, hey, his teammate could go in too. But I never look at Reddick as a super speedway guy. But now that he's won one, I mean, you got to look at him from here on out. Of course, I had Bubba Wallace, and he gains a whole whopping 1 point this week and finishes 36. So, gotta love that. That's another example of if I pick you in my fantasy league, it's not going to be a good race for you. I haven't picked yet this week because I'm towards the bottom due to the bad finish by Bubba, but we'll see if I can maybe get back on track this week. I'm going to go through some notable finishers. Brad Keselowski finishing second. That's who I wanted to pick in my fantasy league. He was gone by the time he got to me. But I also thought about Noah Gragson, who I should have picked because he flat out, I mean, he did a great job. He was up front towards the end of the race there. Finishes third. Noah's one of my favorite drivers in the field. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., a good finish of fourth. And Anthony Alfredo, sixth in the Cup race. I think he finished third in the Xfinity race. Shout out Dude Wops. I love Dude Wops, and that's Anthony Alfredo's main sponsor. So that's a good run for that team. I mean, that's a team that only competes in a couple races every year. And the sixth place finish definitely huge for them. Todd Gilliland eighth. Daniel Hemrick, his first career top 10. Well, at least with Kaulig. First top 10 of the year. He finishes ninth. Harrison Burton finally with the top 10. Love to see that. Carson Hocevar and Corey LaJoy 17th and 18th. LaJoy came across the line on his side. Ends up flipping back over on all fours. Disappointing runs. I got to think Ryan Blaney being 20th is disappointing. Larson 21st. Ty Gibbs 22nd. Kyle Busch 27th and Austin Dillon 30th. They ran top 10 for quite a while there. So I expected better finishes for them. And then, of course, you've got the Toyota foursome. That was collected in Rex. Eric Jones 35th, Bubba 36th, Denny 37th, and Seabell 38th. And then, I want to touch on Michael McDowell, too, 31st. Man, well, that's tragic. He looked like he was going to win the race and ends up bringing it home 31st. Didn't get across the line in that big wreck at the end. So that's it for the Cup race. I picked Bowman to win. He finished 5th, so that prediction wasn't that far off. I'll take that. Xfinity Series, I picked Sheldon Creed. He finished 6th, if I remember correctly. The Xfinity Series at Talladega, man, and I keep going for the man. If Cup cars could just be Xfinity cars, man, that would be so awesome because the Xfinity car puts on a great race no matter what track you're on. And it proved that again. I really enjoyed watching the Xfinity race. Now at the end, there was and you'll tell it by the finishes. There were some guys that were up there that you would never see up front in an Xfinity race ever. And I don't mean any disrespect, but it's just the truth. Leland Honeyman Jr. started inside front row with 2 to go. And there was a big chance he could have won the thing. He brings home 4th. Brennan Poole 5th. He's been close at super speedways before. Arguably has won one that got taken away. And that's, and like I said, Anthony Alfredo finishing 3rd in Xfinity was huge. Matty D 8th. Mason Massey in the 14 car, which if you follow Xfinity, that car all year has putted around for a couple laps, and within 5 laps, it's a lap down, drives it to an 11th place finish. It's just guys like that, the Cinderella story, the small teams that you really love seeing. Now for this week, we go to Dover. It's only Xfinity and Cup trucks that are on at Dover this week. And last year, it was the Truex brother sweep. Ryan Truex finally got his win at Dover in the Xfinity Series, and then Martin Truex went behind him there and won on Sunday, or actually it was Monday, I think. It was rain delay, of course, and I haven't looked at the weather yet for this weekend, but it wouldn't surprise me if we have a little weather issues. It's usually the case at Dover. But I don't know who to pick, to be honest. I want to shout out, since we're talking about Xfinity, shout out Jesse Love for winning that Xfinity race, his first career win. That was very cool to see him get that. Daniel Dye, my buddy Daniel, is racing Xfinity this week at Dover. I look forward to that in the 10 colleague car. Who do I pick to win, though? That's a good question. I'm going to go with experience here. I'm going to go with Justin Allgaier to win at Dover. I just think this is an Allgaier type race. I don't know his career stats at Dover, to be honest with you. I'm not going to act like I do. But I like Allgaier to win at Dover in the Xfinity Series. And it's, Dover weekend made me think it's been probably exactly a year since, I don't know the dates, but the Dover Recap was my first ever episode of this show. So, well, I guess next week will technically be a year anniversary of us, of me having this podcast and you all enjoying it. And I can't appreciate you all enough, man. I really can't. To think back, it's been a year, and it continues to grow every day. We expand our community and expand our listenership. I really can't thank you enough. I enjoy doing this, and I hope you all enjoy listening. Now, Cup, I struggle with Cup, but I will tell you, and I don't think I've picked him to win a race yet this year. I really don't. I don't think I have. I'll sometimes get hater messages. You always ride Denny's jock because he's your driver. You talk about him all the time. Well, first of all, it's my podcast, so yeah, I can talk about him if I want to, but facts are facts, and Chris Gabehart brings a fast 11 car every time they are at Dover. That's just a fact. He's in the Toyota. Toyotas are really good at Dover. I know Chevrolet's R R2 Hendrick has been known to be really good at Dover. But I like Denny to win this race. I do. I think Larson is the favorite as far as odds go. I would put Denny in the top 5 favorites. I'm not sure where he falls on that list, but I did see something today that Larson was indeed the favorite. And it wouldn't shock me if Larson goes out and dominates and wins this. I think you got to put Martin Truex up there as well as a guy that could really do some damage. He won here last year. He tends to really love this track. But I'm going Denny. I think the 11 team the last couple weeks haven't went as good as they wanted, although Texas, he was battling for a win before he wrecked. He's just been consistently fast. It's basically him, Larson, and Byron that have been consistently fast every week. But I like Denny to go to victory lane for the 3rd time this year at Dover. So you all let me know what you think. Give me your predictions. Like I said, I haven't picked in my fantasy group yet. Can't wait to do that. Picking 18th this week. So basically get the leftover scraps, but hopefully whoever I pick can do something at least. We'll see. Maybe gain more than 1 point. That would be preferable. I think I've had 2 or 3 weeks this year that have only resulted in 1 point for me. So not the best look, but I'm just ready for a good, solid race after the last month or so. Kind of been disappointing. I mean, like I said, Texas was a little better than usual, but I'm ready for a awesome race. And if we don't get that this week at Dover, I'm I'm a betting man that would say, if I was a betting man, I would say that Kansas will live up to the hype. I mean, every time they've been there with the next gen car, it's just been awesome. So that's definitely that's definitely a track I want to go to in person, especially with this next gen car. Uh, is Kansas. That's one of the tracks I haven't been to. It's not that far of it. I think it's 9 hours or something. Nine hours from where I live in Kentucky. But that's definitely a track I want to go to, and I want to go to Dover too at some point. I want to check that off my list at some point. Um, I just want to take a minute and thank each and every one of you. For everyone that commented last week about, I asked the question, what do you think about the race? Saw a lot of 6s and 7s. I don't remember. I think I gave it an 8, so we're similar there. This week, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give the Talladega race? I hate to be a hater, but I think it's a 5, maybe a 6. But if I'm on the total wrong end of the spectrum here, and you all disagree completely, definitely let me know. But just my opinion, I think Talladega earns a 6 just because there wasn't much going on, to be honest with you, throughout the race. So I think I've covered everything. Once again, I hated to see the news that Eric Jones is out this week, but follow my picks. I've been on a heater besides Talladega. It's hard to pick speedways, but both of my guys that I did pick finished the race and finished in the top 10, one in the top 5. So I still classify that as a little bit. Anytime you pick a guy in the top 5 at Talladega, I mean, you got to feel good because it's so unpredictable. But like I said, I'm riding the Justin Allgaier and Denny Hamlin train this week. I'm going to experience at Dover. It's just a physically demanding track. Got to have a very good handling car throughout. And I think both those guys know how to wheel it. So thank you all, as always, for listening. This has been JD Talks NASCAR podcast. We're available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. And real quick before I go, I want to shout out Asphalt Media and Robbie DeVore, and also Chris Tinsley, who made my paint scheme for the Candyland 200. It was a very fun race. If you all tuned in, I appreciate that. It was a great host, a great time. I won best paint scheme for my Nerd Gummy Clusters paint scheme on iRacing. It was a big time money event. The winner got $350. I won some money for the best paint scheme. So thank you all for that. If you're listening, I told Chris I would shout him out on here because he does a great job with the paint schemes, and it was very good. If you follow my Facebook, you'll go on there and see the car. But it was just a very awesome design, and I drove it to an 11th place finish. So it was the best iRacers in the asphalt media community, and to drive it to an 11th place finish, I got it up to 3rd at one point, and then some people stayed out, kind of shuffled me back on the restart. I think I restarted like 7th, and I put it in the fence one time there towards the end. The car didn't drive the same after, but thank you all for that, and thank you if you watched. I know some of my podcast listeners watch on there as well, so thank you all. And until next week, where we're recapping a Dover race. Hopefully they get it in on Sunday. So we'll see. But thank you all for listening. This has been JD Talks NASCAR.